Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Seems like we're only talking politics these days, but it just keeps coming. We're at the precipice of disaster, folks. All of us. Before we get started, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know, it's another one of my political reactions to. This time, we're gonna feature Kristi Noem, because we're going to talk about things that's under her purview. Uh, I haven't done that before. I mean, I kind of focus on Caroline because she gives a broad swath of what's going on, and there's a lot to react to. But I wanted to kind of hone in here on the fact that the separations between the states and the federal government. Right? We all know that sanctuary cities are in open opposition to the rule of law against the federal government. Now, that's not to say that the 10th Amendment, which was written in or ratified in 1791, gave the states the right to have control over things within their borders, right? Mainly, marriage laws and stuff like that. They can trade and have commerce within the state's borders. And law enforcement, local law enforcement inside, they can tell those guys what to do and what not to do. Okay. What the 10th Amendment doesn't do is give the states the right to harbor illegal aliens from federal authority. And that's what we have going on right now. And so this is where the Republicans made a mistake. And they were real slow to work on this, and I don't understand. I mean, they got lawyers on the right, they have activist judges on the right. Like I said, sanctuary cities should have been challenged from the beginning. Somebody told me, well, they couldn't challenge it because of the 10th Amendment. Well, yes, they could. You actually could challenge almost anything. You might get shot down at the lowest level of the court. But the 10th Amendment does not give the states the right to hide illegal aliens from the federal government or the long arm or the law of the federal government. Just doesn't. It absolutely does not give it to them. And I think that's what should have been challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. But maybe the reason why it wasn't, because maybe some people thought that was obvious. Well, it turns out the blue states don't think it's obvious because they are harboring illegal aliens by the millions. By the millions. So if you add up all the sanctuary states and cities, there's millions of illegal aliens in those borders. And ICE has to go ferry them out. And since the leaders of those blue states and those blue cities have been in open opposition against the federal government, they have weaponized their citizenry to be their pawns of destruction. And Minnesota, looks like Minnesota is going to be the big test case, because I think I'd be surprised that if the president, if he hasn't already, doesn't invoke the Insurrection Act against Minnesota. I know it's right on the tippy top, and he's threatening, and I wish they would stop threatening shit and just do it. You know what I'm saying? But Minneapolis, which was a beautiful place, by the way. I mean, I used to love going there. When it wasn't wintertime. Oh, Jesus Christ. But the president should just do it. We got to draw some of these things to a head. And I got a couple of videos, and then we're going to let Kristi Noem, say what she has to say. But before we get there, okay, so we know we got the 10th Amendment. It gives the states certain rights, but it doesn't give them the right to harbor illegal aliens from the federal government. They don't have that right. Okay, that's why ICE could come into those towns and go get those people. Okay, and if the cops were allowed to cooperate, then we wouldn't have all this consternation. But they're expressly being told by the blue states and the blue cities not to cooperate with ICE. And there we have all of these riots and all this other shit. And unfortunately, a lady had to lose her life because of it. That's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. And Tim Walz and that stinking mayor that they have in Minneapolis, they should be put under investigation for sedition. You know, so we'll come back to that. So here's some more definitions. Well, so, okay, you ask yourself, well, what is insurrection? I mean, these are real simple definitions, right? You know, you have a state or a violent uprising, Minnesota, against the authority of the government. And now you can't say that these people aren't getting violent. They've been violent, and the federal government and Kristi, Noem, and all those people have been more than accommodating to people who just don't know better. But now it's time to take the gloves off. Okay? And sedition, of course, should go more towards their leaders. If you listen to Tim Walz speak, you know, telling blatant lies, energizing his population to combat ICE. And the same thing with the mayor. You know, it won't take, if what the mayor has already said, if he was to be indicted, they could use his words against him to get him convicted for sedition. That's what I think. You know, it's not even right there on the hairy edge. So here's those definitions. So keep these in mind: the 10th Amendment, insurrection, you know, sedition, and focus this on what's really going on in these blue states and these blue cities in terms of how they are in active opposition to the federal government and ICE doing the mandated job given to them by Congress. You know, just like any other law enforcement, they've been told, go forth and get those illegal aliens. Even if you prioritize the worst of the worst, if you're out of compliance with our laws and our rules for being here legally, you are subject to deportation. So before we get to Kristi, I got another video from the Cartier brothers. We'll see a couple of minutes of that, and then we'll just bring up Kristi, and then I'll just react to what she has to say.
We're back with the Fox News Alert. If you're just getting up, anti-ICE protesters raging in Minneapolis last night after another ICE-involved shooting where an illegal migrant from Venezuela was hit in the leg by a bullet. DHS says an agent was being attacked with a shovel and opened fire in self-defense. Moments ago, President Trump posting, quote, on Truth Social, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota do not obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state.
Only trying to do their job. I actually feel bad for these ICE agents at this point.
Yeah, they're going through it.
Like, it looks like a war zone out there.
Facts.
The stuff I've seen, they were literally breaking into one of their weapons box.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, they tore it out. They tore it out the car.
Here's the video right here. Nobody can say anything about January 6th again. You cannot, because this right here is bad.
Hey, listen, I'll tell y'all now, they on the Snapchat, so they gonna be on y'all ass if y'all recording this. They gonna be on your ass. They gonna be on your ass. Your ass is a witness. What's up? Hey, don't hit them.
And let's not forget, the people on January 6th, I don't know if all of them are out of prison yet.
It was federal aid.
So let me stop you right there, okay? Now, there's video of this same incident a little further on, where a guy retrieves a rifle and he has a big face tattoo, and you know what that really means, right? I mean, a big face tattoo with a symbol on it, and you know what that means. My only question is, why would a ICE vehicle be left anywhere for these people to go ahead and break into it? That shit doesn't make any sense to me. How come they didn't take that vehicle and put it back up behind the federal fence? I'd be curious as to why that vehicle was there, and that's the only question I don't have. Why would you leave anything behind like that with weapons in the back of it? That's stupid. That's a mistake. Now, if they were in a house or if that was in front of somebody's house, whatever it was, it just doesn't make any sense to have a vehicle there. And how did these people know? So that vehicle was an ICE agency vehicle with weapons in the back or whatever. So there's some questions about this whole situation right here that I have. But I just want to kind of show you that if we're on the precipice of complete insurrection by Minnesota and the Minnesota people who are being paid by some unknown hand. That's another problem I have. With all the sophisticated techniques that we have to follow and trace money, how come the federal government doesn't know where all the money's coming from to fund these agitators? I'm tired of hearing that. So, well, where's the money coming from? What do you mean you don't know where the money's coming from? If somebody's getting paid, the money has to be traceable. It's got to be traceable in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Even if you have to put a mole inside this organization who is actually getting money, we should know who's funding these people by now, by name or organization. Doesn't matter how deep. We got all the sophistication in the world to do it. See, this is where I think the Republicans are weak. And I just think they're weak in terms of believing that the nefarious elements out there will actually stop at nothing to destroy this country. And and they do a lot of tough talk and a lot of shit like that, but we still don't see no perp walks. I think all the mayors and all the governments of blue states should be under open investigation right now, and that they should let everybody know. And as soon as we got enough information to convene a grand jury, people should do it. The kind of optics that we need to have is to see a guy like Pritzker or a person like Walls in handcuffs or being, meant to get in front of a grand jury and, defend themselves. And if an indictment comes, they should be made to step down from office. That's what I'm saying. But if you're not willing to go that far or even, kibosh the filibuster, because if y'all don't do it, man, we're doomed. So that's my thought. That's my take on this thing. So let's get to Kristi, Noem, and go from there. So I just wanted to show this, that we see the open rebellion, and now it's time to check out what's really going on and see what Kristi has to say. Okay. All right, I think this is it. And this was meant to be a quick one, so I wasn't going to be here forever. So.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
It'll take law and order and leadership there that partners with us that we haven't seen yet. In my discussions with Governor Walz, and from what I've seen on his press gatherings, he still is not willing to work with our federal officers to bring peace to the streets of Kansas.
Madam Secretary?
Plans to pull out of Minnesota?
No plans to pull out of Minnesota.
And how would you describe what you were seeing on the ground there? Would you describe it as an insurrection? And do you believe the president should invoke the Insurrection Act?
I describe it as violent and a violation of the law in many places. I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the department in different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that. My hope is that this leadership team in Minnesota will start to work with us to get criminals off the streets. Remember, we are there in surged operations because of the largest fraud scheme in American history. We had people stealing from taxpayers, stealing funds away from the most vulnerable individuals in this country, people who needed mental health services, developmental services, autism, daycare. Instead, individuals came in, much from the Somalian community, and stole dollars from those people who needed it and put it in their own pockets and enriched themselves. Did it right under Governor Walz's nose. And we believe that he didn't just know about it, that he may be complicit in it as well.
Madam Secretary?
Well, before you go on, so I mean, let's not. I know all these things are connected, but the Somalis who are creating the fraud, a lot of those people have gotten naturalized already. So that's a little bit separate, not a lot, but it's separate. That corruption is separate from harboring illegal aliens and battling ICE to make sure you don't get them. So the real point is that when Walz, and she came out and said this, refuses to let his state and his local law enforcement work with ICE to get the illegals out of here in safe spaces, then he's saying to her straight face, I don't care what you need to do. We're not going to cooperate. You know, and the 10th Amendment doesn't go as far as they think it does because it doesn't allow the states to harbor, aid and abet illegal aliens. It doesn't. And no matter how much they cry and put up liberal white women, unfortunately, it ain't going to change that.
Do you believe there are any cases in Minnesota where the ICE agents have gone too far?
Our ICE agents are following the law and running their operations according to training. Last night, what we saw was 3 individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself. So we're hopeful that we don't see that again, that these protesters and violent rioters will be held accountable for the actions that they're taking and that our officers can do their work safely.
Madam Secretary? Madam Secretary?
You know, he was
cars looted in Minnesota. Can you provide an update on what the agency is going to do about that and concerned with the documents that were taken by those?
Well, I believe that those vehicles were FBI vehicles, not our Department of Homeland Security vehicles. So I'm not certain what documents were in there that those criminals may have taken and seen. But I would say that our agent is beat up, he's bruised, he's injured, he's getting treatment, and we're thankful that he made it out alive.
Madam Secretary? Madam Secretary?
Secretary Noem, are you okay with federal agents and officers violating people's Fourth Amendment rights by asking for papers without reasonable suspicion?
Every single action that our ICE officers take is according to the law and following protocols that we have used for years, that this administration has used, that the previous administration used. They are doing everything correctly, and over again in litigation in the courts, we've proven that they've done the right
Why
thing.
is it within
Madam Secretary?
Why
Madam
is it within
Secretary?
their right to ask for papers without reasonable suspicion?
With the president.
But I think
You
it's
say you
important.
discussed the Insurrection Act with the president. Did you recommend that?
No, we just discussed it, that it was one of the options that he had constitutionally, and we talked about the fact that we're going to continue our operations in Minneapolis and have the resources that we need to get the job done.
Madam Secretary? Madam Secretary?
How many tankers is our Coast Guard tracking that are loose, and are any of them out of the Caribbean that you're tracking worldwide?
I can't speak to the specifics of the operation, although we are watching the entire shadow fleet and how they're moving. And I'm very proud of our Coast Guard, how they've partnered with the Department of War to do unprecedented actions and bringing these flags under jurisdiction that often, or these ships under jurisdiction that in many instances aren't flagged or they're affiliated with a country moving this unauthorized oil to avoid our sanction policy.
Madam Secretary, can I follow up quickly? Perhaps
When, like the video that was posted this morning, do you watch any of those operations?
Absolutely,
Did
I
you
do.
share them with
Absolutely,
the president
I do.
today?
Yes, absolutely, we do. We haven't slept a lot lately between the Coast Guard operations, what they're doing in partnership with the Department of War in dealing with the shadow fleet, what we're also doing as far as operations with law enforcement across the country. The Department of Homeland Security is very busy. Yes.
No, I gotta say, there's so much difference between a conservative woman and these liberal women out there. It's just like night and day. It's like night and day. I mean, it's crazy. Now, I know there's like a sister code and shit at some level, women code, but it's just to listen to a conservative woman speak is compared to listening to some of the delusional, crazy ass, a conservative woman speak, and then compare that to these crazy ass liberal women. It's like night and day, night and day.
Secretary, perhaps to follow up, why are we seeing Americans being asked on the street to provide proof of citizenship in Minnesota? Is that targeted enforcement? And are you advising Americans to carry proof of citizenship?
In every situation, we're doing targeted enforcement. If we are on a target and doing an operation, there may be individuals surrounding that criminal that we may be asking who they are and why they're there and having them validate their identity. That's what we've always done. And asking people who they are so that we know who's in those surroundings. And if they are breaking our federal laws, we will detain them as well until we run that process.
Are you advising?
And you know what? And that's exactly how local law enforcement work too. If you're hanging out with gangbangers, they're going to ask you questions. If you're in a car with a drunk driver, or if you're in a car with a person who committed a crime, and you, even if you didn't have anything to do with it, you're going to be detained until you're cleared. There is no difference in the way they do this on that level or down at the local level. If you're around criminals, man, that shit rubs off. It rubs off, and you can't avoid it. The only way you can avoid it is not to be around people who are breaking the law.
Americans to carry proof, just to follow, are you advising Americans to carry proof of citizenship in the second half?
There needs to be an insurrection act.
Oh, I think that the president has that opportunity in the future. It's his constitutional right, and it's up to him if he wants to utilize it.
Likely to do it?
I don't know.
Would that
But
be
I-
the situation would lead to more deaths and killings in Minnesota if the Insurrection Act isn't?
If anything doesn't change with Governor Walz, I don't anticipate that the streets will get any safer or more peaceful. Governor Walz and his leadership team need to come to us and find out how we can work together like we have in many other states. We didn't see this kind of reaction in Louisiana when we ran our operations, exactly how we are running them in Minneapolis. But we had a very different response because we had leaders that were working with us. If you saw our operations in Florida, extremely successful. In Minneapolis so far, we brought hundreds of criminals off the streets that were dangerous to society and dangerous to that community. We would wish that Governor Walz could take an example from the governor of Louisiana, the governor of Florida, and work with us to do the right thing for his people.
See, that's the message that is not repeated from the top of the mountain over and over and over, that the blue states are not cooperating, and that's causing the consternation. And here's our evidence on why. That the only difference between those states and the states where we're having no issue is that the governors and the mayors are allowing law enforcement to work with ICE to keep people safe and to help remove the illegals without the raid effect. Okay, I mean, it takes maybe two ICE agents to get an illegal under control and out and put in a proper place in those red states or the states where there's cooperation, where it takes a whole horde of agents to get one person in the blue states. And that's by design in the blue states, to make it as tough as possible to eradicate, to clean the pus out of the wounds of America with all of these illegal aliens here, and they're going to make it as hard as possible. And I hope the president go ahead and does this Insurrection Act and just comes down hard. And with that, they should muzzle the governor and the mayor from inciting any more further violence.
The officers that we have out there are very highly trained and skilled, specific for the operations that they're doing. They're utilizing the most gifted individuals on these operations to go out and to do enforcement, because many times if they're going after murderers, they're going after professionals and gangs and terrorists that are here in our country illegally. And I'll remind you, the only reason we're in this situation is because the Biden administration allowed 20 million people to come into this country unvetted. My every day is spent thinking about the known terrorists that are in this country that I just haven't found yet. The suspected terrorists, the criminals, the murderers, the pedophiles that are out there on the streets that we need to find and get off the streets, because Joe Biden opened up our borders and allowed that invasion to happen. If you can imagine the kind of dysfunctional criminal gangs and organizations that use that open border as an opportunity to infiltrate America, it's overwhelming at times, and that's why President Trump is so strong at taking action and making sure he's in every single state, following through on his commitments to every single citizen.
Did the president say what his final straw would be to invoke the Insurrection Act?
No, this president uses all the information and intelligence that he can get. That's why he calls me, he calls Pete, he calls local law enforcement. He talks to those individuals and agents as well that are involved that he knows well. This president makes fully informed decisions and utilizes his authorities when it's
Would you
appropriate.
if Marina Machado is coming to the White House today, are you going to be in the meeting because a lot of illegals are from Venezuela? Or are you going to talk to with Delcy Rodriguez like Trump?
I think I have other commitments today. We are putting in the new commandant of the Coast Guard. He is having his swearing in ceremony, so I'll be doing that. And then I have some meetings with law enforcement. So I will not be in that meeting, but the president will keep me informed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, first time Kristi is, she's stoic. She's doing her job. I think the only mistake that I thought she made was letting people go down and see that place in El Salvador. I have a big issue with that. That's why they're not doing it anymore. The American people didn't need to see that prison. But anyway, with that, I'm just saying, hey, listen, whoever showed up, hit the like button on the way in. This was going to be a short one. I think we're right on the heels of the president doing the Insurrection Act. I think Minnesota has crossed the Rubicon. In Minneapolis, there's a lot of people who should be in jail. And the mayor and the governor should be under strict scrutiny. And I think they should be indicted. I think they both should be indicted. Now, for two things. One, the governor for sure, for all the fraud that his organization has let happen. And if those whistleblowers are telling the truth, for that. And for the fact that he's inciting, by his words, some of this major opposition to the federal government. And if there was ever a real life Manchurian candidate, Governor Walz is a good person who fits that bill. Anyway, with that, good night. Our pain, marriage, politics, and sports. Hit the like button. Over and out.